questions from the audience. We'll ask that the folks on Zoom please feel free to put your questions in the chat. Maya will help relay that to us whenever the time comes.
It's still showing
the
on
folks
me?
here in person.
Okay, awesome.
So folks here in person, be ready to ask questions as well. Emily, it's all yours.
All right. All right, so hello all. My name is Emily Mcgowan. If you are my students, I'm going to be Miss McGowan to you. I will be student teaching at Tri-Valley High School this spring. And so this presentation is going to be a reflection of everything that culminated into who I am today. So it's going to outline who I want to become, and what experiences made me who I am and prepared me for my teaching experience, and what I want to gain for my student teaching experience in the spring. So let's start off with who I want to become. So my philosophy can be derived to 3 takeaways. One is learning for the future. Everything I teach in my class, I wanted to have some sort of applicability outside of the classroom. I don't want to teach students fluff. I wanted to have some sort of relevance to their future, whether they choose to participate in the agricultural system as a consumer, or if they want to work within an agricultural career. I want the content that I have to have some sort of relevance to them. My second point is addressing differences and adapting to needs. No 2 classes I'm going to teach are ever going to be the same. I'm going to have students with different learning styles, ability levels, and different goals for the future. And I need to be able to adapt my class to those needs. And no 2 lessons will likely look the same from that. And then my third point is connecting with community. So community is a huge part of our ag programs. They are our sponsors. They help develop our standards. And in many cases, they act as employers for our students. So we want to, within my program, I want to foster those community relationships and help my students see the value within the people that are around them. So my next point is how I want to manage my classroom. So behind me, you'll see these 3 wonderful boards outlining my procedures, expectations, and consequences for not following those expectations. So from the minute that students walk in the door to the minute they leave, they are going to be occupied with something. They are going to arrive on time and complete bell work. Then they are to take out class materials and put away devices unless instructed otherwise, as I may be using apps or software in a lesson that cannot be utilized on a school Chromebook. They are expected to participate in class, as that is a collaborative effort and it helps with the efficiency of our classes. They are to turn in classwork, and then finally they are to clean up their workspace, complete the ticket out the door, and wait for the teacher to dismiss. This is to help keep the classroom efficient, and it's also to maximize the learning experience for all students. Our expectations for ourselves are described as what I'd like to call the 5 Ps. The first one being physical safety. This was something I considered when developing expectations for my lab. Well, for my shop settings, as I have a wood shop and a welding shop at my current student teaching program, but physical safety should come first. And no matter if you're in a classroom environment or working with power tools, it should be practiced. And sometimes that doesn't come naturally to kids. Secondly, they are to be prompt and prepared. So within the future workplace, you have to clock in and out. And I want students to practice timeliness and arriving on time. And I also want them to practice preparedness to improve the efficiency of lessons, and that kids aren't going to their lockers or fiddling in their backpacks when we're trying to learn or do an activity. They are to be productive, make the most of the time that we have, bring a positive attitude. My students are going to be challenged every day within the classroom, and I want them to be able to bring a positive attitude in facing those challenges. And we're also going to practice politeness, in that we are representing our FFA chapter, but we're also representing the future of agriculture. And we want to, concern ourselves with the impressions that we make on other people. So the consequences for not following these procedures and expectations will go as following. One, we have a verbal warning. So maybe a student does something by accident, or maybe they snap at someone, they do something they don't realize, and it's my responsibility to let them know, hey, that's not okay. If it happens twice, that's a teacher conference. So this may look like pulling them after class and talking with them one-on-one, seeing where the problem's coming from, what we can do to address it. If there's a third offense, that's where I would contact the parent or guardian of the child. And in addition to this, I may talk to people like the child's coaches, uh, other family members, other teachers, and see if there's anything maybe going on at home or related to that child's situation that I would not know as an agricultural teacher. And then try to work out more solutions to correct this behavior. 4 would be a trip to the office. So if this 3 previous consequences don't work to finding a solution, then I would notify the admin and have a discussion with them. And then my 5th point here is that in a matter of safety, levels can be skipped. If a student is messing with an electrical socket or does something improperly, if they horseplay in the shop or in any of our labs when they know they're not supposed to, that's going to be communicated to the parent and the admin immediately. So in my ideal program, I don't have much of what I would choose for curriculum is going to be derived from what the students need. I find I would like to teach a rather general set of curriculum. So touching into ag mechanics, plant science, animal science, and ag leadership. But this can fluctuate depending on where I'm placed and what type, what my kids want to do and plan to do in their futures. So the courses in blue can be taken in any order. The course here in green, vet science, that would need large and small animal care as a prerequisite. So for my student project, in preparation for the presentation, we are to prepare a student project under $15. And this is my example of what I would do with the kids. This is a coat rack. It can be made from a singular board. And it utilizes every machine that we have in the shop. You use the planer, the miter box, the jointer. You sand and finish it. This, in my future classes, I would plan on utilizing this to teach procedures of every machine, the procedures for every machine in the shop, and provide kids experiential learning before they take their quizzes. I would have kids line up to each machine and I would directly observe them while the other classmates watch them perform, make each piece of this machine. So then before they are quizzed on it, they have some experiential learning before they take their tests. So in the future, when I want to be a ag teacher, I had to think about how I wanted to integrate SAE into my classes and curriculum. The way I would achieve this is through SAE for all. Side note, SAE stands for Supervised Agricultural Experiences. These provide value to students in that they can explore their interests, but they also get to have experience in record keeping. So this would look like in my program, every student would have a foundational SAE. So they'd record class activities in a program like AET and practice record keeping skills and get familiar with what an SAE can look like. And then from that point, they're encouraged to choose an immersion SAE, which can look like a variety of things. It can be a placement, it can be something similar to a business like an ownership or an entrepreneurship. They could research something within agricultural science. So they're not limited necessarily to what I'm teaching in class. They have the opportunity to explore something outside of the curriculum, but that can still touch into agriculture. The next thing I had to consider in who I aspire to be when I'm a teacher in the future is how FFA is going to be integrated into my program. So FFA used to stand for Future Farmers of America, but now it's just shortened to FFA because there's a lot more focus on career opportunities in general and career skills, and instead of isolating it to just agricultural and farming practices. So it's an intercurricular organization, meaning that it ties into it's not just a club, it's actually tied within the curriculum. FFA would provide my students with the opportunity to apply their skills and knowledge in a competitive setting, and also give them the opportunity to be recognized for what they've learned. This can be through events like CDEs or career development events, or it could be through community events like the county fair, where they may show animals, or they may make a display project where they educate people in their community on an agricultural topic. Another thing I had to consider in who I want to be as a teacher is how do I want to recruit students into FFA, and how might I want to keep them engaged? So this can look like a variety of things. One way would be having my chapter implement elementary ag workshops. So teaching kids ag literacy from a younger age and inspiring curiosity that may lead them to join FFA in the future. Utilizing social media like Facebook or maybe YouTube pages to promote the chapter and everything that we're doing. Another concept is bring a friend meetings, where members of the chapter invite someone outside of the chapter to experience what it is, maybe learn more about the program and what it offers their students. Now, community is a huge part of ag programs. They outline the standards. While they outline the curriculum necessary for the students, they act as a force of employment for students, and they also can sponsor a lot of our activities. When I integrate community into my future ag program, I need to have students consider the value of these people in their lives and their education. So there's 3 ways that I have this. One can be having guest speakers. They could be from the advisory board. They could be local businesses or industries. It could be field trips to those businesses or industries. Or we could also have students develop their own projects and discuss with these people one-on-one about what type, work studies or work placements. Other ways we could interact with our community, it's not just the leaders of our community, but again, when we consider recruitment, it's people who may become our future ag students. So elementary ag literacy events could also apply to this as well. So what experiences helped me reach where I am? Now, I was only allowed to choose a couple, so I promise I'm not picking favorites. But if there were any courses that I had to choose, I'd say it was Agribusiness 200, where it outlined not only ag business principles and practices, but also management strategies and leadership skills that were implemented within agribusiness. So this looked like looking into business plans, leadership styles, and other things that I saw could have some great potential for application in ag leadership and future ag curriculum. AE 295, this was great for the experiences that it provided me with FFA. I got to participate in events like Fall Leadership Conference, where chapter leaders could organize their own workshops for students, and I got to see how student-led activities worked within FFA. And then Workforce Educational Development 413, where I got to look into IEPs and IEP teams and what supports there are for people of different ability levels, and see exactly how I can apply that to my classes and the variety of students I'm going to have. So then for my certifications, I have the American Red Cross First Aid / CPR certification. That's a certification required to go into teaching. Then I have the National Safe Tractor and Machinery Operation certificate and the American Red Cross Cat and Dog First Aid certificate. I chose these certificates because they're relevant to small engines and animal science. And while they may not apply to my experience at Tri-Valley this spring, this is something that I wanted to look forward into the future and have some experience with in preparation for. So I also had the opportunity to participate in professional development at my time here in Penn State. And this looked like a variety of things. One was the NAAE conference, the National Association of Agricultural Educators Conference, where I got to participate in workshops like FAST or teacher workshops. These can range from teaching techniques to communication skills. One of them that was particularly interesting was the Art of Woo, which was where a guest speaker talked to us about like how we talk to other people and how we can represent like a good image for ourselves and our community as we're trying to look for sponsors. I also participated in other workshops like the Hawk Mountain Kestrel Box workshop, where we got to build Kestrel boxes. This goofy picture here is actually me with a tracking device for tagged predatory birds. And so we got to learn more about like the environmental side of agriculture and some applications to our class, some activities and applications to our classrooms. And then while I was at National FFA Convention this fall, I also had the opportunity to participate in a couple different workshops there. So then I also had some wonderful experiences outside my classes and my professional development. One of them being substituting at Greenwood School District. I substituted at the elementary and the high school. So I've had experience in classroom management for elementary, middle, and high school age students. I was also a preschool teacher for Vacation Bible School at Central Baptist Church this summer. And then I also got to participate in observations at various school districts and observe some of their special education programs as well. So while I was here at Penn State, I've had a couple experiences to help teach a variety, help inform my teaching for a variety of learners. One of them is the Bachelet Conference on International and Intersectional Competence for School Leaders. And the other would be my observations where I observed like different special ed programs. So I had I have more knowledge on like intercultural competencies, as well as an informed view on how we can teach like students at different ability levels. Some of my takeaways are I would want to look for strengths in my students' differences. You know, look at what they can do versus what they can't. Representing the code of ethics, have my students represent the code of ethics in FFA, as one of our goals is to promote diversity within our organization and understanding how we can talk about differences in a respectful way. The importance of variability in classroom instruction, how different teaching methods can benefit different students of different ability levels and learning styles, and also the value of cooperating with an IEP team to help students of different ability levels. So now we can go into some of the preparations I've made for my student teaching experience this spring. So I will be student teaching at Tri-Valley High School. This school has around 110 members in FFA. Some of their strengths are they have a variety of courses. They have a course in precision ag. They have courses in wood and metal, wood shop and welding. They even have a hydroponics course there. There's a huge variety of what can be taken. Now that's dependent on what the board says the students need or approve of, but it's really cool to see those opportunities opened up for students. And then what I also found was a strength was they have some really nice facilities. They have a welding slash multi-purpose workspace. Then they have a classroom space and a wood shop. So they have 3 separate areas that they can work in. If there's any room for improvement, I've talked to the teacher and she said she'd like to see more improvement in FFA member participation. While we have a large amount of members, especially for the proportion of students that we have at this district, not very many of them are coming to meetings, and it's hard to pull them to participate more. And if there's anything I'd like to do at this district, I'd like to see how I, as an advisor, could encourage more participation in this organization. So my schedule, I'm going to be teaching for 15 weeks at this experience. Sprinkled within my classes are some different opportunities, like attending a counting public speaking event or CDE, SLC as an experience, spring retreat seminar where FFA officers will go and get trained and they'll work on their POAs. So I get to be part of that experience with them as well. I'll be teaching 4 courses over 7 periods. As you can see in the bell schedule, we have some repeats. So we have 2 sections of Ag Science and Mechanics 1, 2 sections of Ag Science 2, 3, and 4, an Ag Practicum course, a woodworking / welding course. That one operates on an A-B schedule. So it's every other day. I have one or the other. And then I will be teaching an 8th grade rotation course where they're for a quarter going to be exposed to FFA and get an understanding what it is and see if they want to participate in it in the future. So here are some of the units that I have. This is a copy of the unit and lesson plan contract I am to complete with my cooperating teacher. So some of the subjects I'm going to teach are ag careers, the importance of ag, and touch a little bit on basic animal terminology with my 8th graders. Woodworking isn't limited just to the woodworking section, as Ag Practicum will be going over safety and constructing a nail box in their course. Tying back to some of the courses that I've taken, I have the opportunity to teach some ag business and some soils and soil management, which will tie really well into the crop unit that my cooperating teacher, Mrs. Dingman, had completed in the fall. There will be a palette project where students will be given a palette and they will be making their choice of a project from it. Welding will start off with some basic skills like running a 3-inch bead or working on a butt weld, and intro to woodworking will be working with project planning and project work. So then that brings me to my final point. What do I want to gain from my experience? I know that my strengths are that I am detail oriented. So I will put a lot of time and effort into my responsibilities and what I'm given. And I also have a growth mindset. I didn't start off in ag. I wasn't in agriculture in high school. My background wasn't that deep in it. And going into this major was a little bit of a leap for me, but I hope that with students who may not grow up on a farm or have that much experience, I can model for them what a growth mindset looks like and show that you can be successful and that isn't dependent on where you come from. So some of my goals from for my future experience in student teaching is to grow my agricultural knowledge, gain more confidence. I don't know if you all can tell, but I really care about this. But as I get more experience, I hope that I can kind of loosen up a bit and work on my skills in teaching and classroom management to a point where I'm more confident in myself and my abilities. And then overall, I want to leave a positive impact at Tri-Valley. Whether that be through the member participation as stated earlier, or maybe bringing new ideas or perspectives. I want to say thank you to all my professors, my cohort, my friends and my family, and everyone who supported me throughout my experience here at Penn State. I hope that I can help kids grow and give them the knowledge and skills and the attitudes that they need to be successful and to overall just be better people. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Again, we'll ask the folks online if you don't mind throwing your questions in the chat, but we'll now open up from the audience and our faculty and staff to ask questions. Who would like to go first? Okay.
Great job, Emily. So my first question is obviously student teaching. You have a lot of things going on. You're going to be very busy. How do you plan to make time for yourself while also being able to show up every single day for your students? Because we know it's important that, we're not just working constantly, right? You have to take some time to refresh a little bit. So just tell me a little bit about your plan to take time for yourself during the spring semester.
No, that's a good question. I actually took a workshop at NAAE that was kind of talking on boundaries. And one of the suggestions that they had was treating your time to yourself as a scheduled event, as something that you don't want to push off or allow other activities to cross over into. So I think there's that. And there's also just trying to manage my time and make sure that I'm not overworking or underworking. I've thought about talking with my cooperating teacher, seeing how much time she takes on her units and lessons and planning other activities and getting a reference for how much time I should dedicate to those so that I'm not overthinking and spinning my wheels and then having that cut into the time that's supposed to be for rest and taking for myself.
Thank you. Emily, I'll ask a question.
Yes.
You referenced the growth mindset. So I have a two-part question. The first of which is, do you think the majority of your students, your future students, are going to have a growth mindset as high schoolers?
It's one of those things where you hope for the best, but expect the worst. You really do have to model that for a lot of students. I know there are students that will be placed in my program because a guidance counselor may not know what to do with them. And because of the experiential learning and the hands-on, students who may not be good at other subjects may be placed there, and they may not see the value that agriculture has for them. But I hope that I can, model growth mindset. If they don't have an interest or they don't have a background in ag, I hope that I can show them that they can be successful and that they can find enjoyment in it.
It was a very diplomatic way of saying that yes, probably the majority of your students will not have the growth mindset. I guess where I want you to push you now is, how do you do that? How do you help move them out of that fixed mindset into the growth mindset? Why is that important?
That's a good question. It's something that will take habits instead of like a direct plan. So, if I'm challenged with something or I'm having a rough day, I have to show that I have to model an attitude of respect and that I'm not. Because I know sometimes even the best teachers can still be a little bit cranky. I have to show that through my attitude. I have to show, if a student's like really insecure about that part of themselves, like I can talk to them about like, hey, your background's not that important to this. This is where I came from. That's not the hugest part of that. That's an initial response. I would like to think deeper about the specific ways that I would implement that, but I hope that I can foster that attitude in my classroom. Yes.
So you mentioned the importance of community and integrating into your art program. Do you have any plans for in your student teaching to do this with your students?
I've been thinking about that. I'm still bouncing some ideas with like the advisory board, my teacher, but I was considering doing a project where middle school students would look for issues in agricultural in their communities, and they could educate or hold workshops on those. Maybe working with the local game commissioners, or maybe people on like maintaining parks or local landscapes and having those in and implementing service learning opportunities within the curriculum. I'm still working on that, but I'd love to see more progress in it. That's a really good question. Yes.
Emily, thank you for your presentation. I want you to help me explore a space here. And I'd like you to talk to me about, as we think about recruitment of an agricultural education program, how do we ensure that we're recruiting and engaging students that are in our ag ed program that are representative of the surrounding high school and community? How do we make sure that our strategies yield a program, the demographic profile will be representative of the community surrounding it?
That's a good question. I would have to say, there might be an effort depending on like the demographic that I have. If I don't have anyone of a certain minority or group, I may be the one that has to reach out to those students and talk to them through those experiences. I would hope that ideally, maybe I'd at least have, if it's too small, I could have those students that are there, try to recruit for those groups and have somebody that maybe they feel like they could relate to, talk to them about what FFA is and what the ag program is. That's an initial response, but I'd like to look into some more strategies to implement recruitment and kind of having a demographic more representative of our community.
Thank you. I'm gonna have some follow-ups here. That's a great question. I'm gonna change gears, okay? Because you said so many good things in your presentation. So I want to see how good your AEE 413 class was at this time. And so my question is I heard you say, I'm going to teach what do the students need, what the students need. I would like you to tell me what data or information will inform you of what the students need to determine your curriculum in your program. What sources of information would you look to inform you in the design and delivery of your program curriculum?
Well, there's pieces like the NOCTI, so seeing what students are lacking within those exams and implementing those subjects maybe more, or maybe subjects they did really well less, and having a good balance of like working on their strengths versus their weaknesses. Personally, I'd like to communicate more with my advisory board and see what they want instead of just looking at data and seeing exactly, that not only do I have the data in that conversation, but I know what it means and exactly what that looks like for these people. So that's where I would start. I would still probably talk to more people in my community, but that would be like my initial response.
What I hear you say is that you're going to use assessment data and then leaning on your occupational advisory board. Dr. Ewing, is there a follow-up question that you want to ask?
Yes, there is actually. Are there any guidelines or is there anything from the state perhaps that would guide what your curriculum might look like as well, or help you set up that initial curriculum?
Well, there's the CIP codes, the Pennsylvania CIP codes, which guide industry standards and are set up by the uh, Pencil, I blanked on the name of it, but it's Pennsylvania Career Technical Education boards. And so they kind of set what to expect on things like the NOCTI examination, but also just skills that will be applicable in like employment in those areas.
I love this. You did a great job there. Now, the last question, and I'll turn it over. You talked about loving Ag Business Management 200.
Yes.
And I chuckled just a little bit about that, but I'm very excited for you. Ag business was not my strong point. I'm sorry. Go on, Dr.
I want to know the name of the lesson title that you would teach to your students that would have been inspired by your experiences in Ag Business Management 200.
I have something that's on like leadership styles. So seeing authoritative versus democratic methods of leadership. And I really like that because it does have applications, not just to ag business, but also their experiences as chapter officers and leaders. And I think that's really interesting because like, not only will it have, I already see a lot of value in ag business. A lot of people see it as a hobby and it's not. And if you want to keep ag going, you have to raise business leaders, but you also have to raise, well, leaders first. And so I like seeing how ag business can have that intersection with FFA leadership and just developing those leadership skills in general. Yes.
I have a question for you. Really good job on your presentation. As you went over the courses that you'll be teaching, one that stuck out to me was the 8th grade rotation. And I think that's a really unique opportunity, but it's also maybe challenging because you only see those students for such a short portion of the year. So I'd be curious, even if you could just name like one way that you're going to maximize that time to really recruit, looking at that as a sort of a pathway into future involvement in high school.
Well, I was thinking implementing a community-based unit of instruction, again, that workshop with the ag issues in the community. But I'm also looking into different, I was thinking maybe as like extra credit, because I'm not sure how to implement an assignment after school hours and on the students' time, but having them visit some of the chapter meetings and see in their importance of ag class and seeing how ag education can be important for developing our ag leaders and our future ag employees, and what yeah, and also just exposure to FFA as a program too. So that's one of the ways I'd implement it. Off the top of my head, I'm still looking into different methods and talking to different people about what I could use as strategies.
Questions, Brandon? You all join me in congratulating her?